The last thing I remembered was crossing the street near my apartment, the screech of tires, and then a bone-rattling impact that sent me sprawling onto the asphalt. A car had hit me, a blue sedan, I think, driven by some guy who looked more annoyed than sorry as he yelled about being late for work. The paramedics arrived quickly, their faces a blur as they strapped me to a stretcher. Now here I was, in a hospital bed at St. Mary's, waiting for surgery to repair a shattered femur and a fractured pelvis. The doctor, a kind-eyed woman named Dr. Patel, had explained the procedure earlier: metal pins, plates, and weeks of recovery. I nodded along, too dazed to ask many questions. My phone sat on the bedside table, its screen dark. I reached for it, wincing as pain shot through my ribs. No missed calls, no texts. I had called my mom, Linda, from the ambulance, my voice shaky as I told her about the accident. She sounded concerned, said she'd let everyone know and that they'd be here soon. That was yesterday. I figured they'd show up this morning, especially since the surgery was scheduled for noon. My family wasn't perfect, but they'd never leave me alone in a hospital, right? I pictured my dad, George, pacing the waiting room with his worn-out baseball cap, muttering about hospital coffee. My older brother Nathan would probably be cracking dumb jokes to lighten the mood, and my younger sister Emily would be there too, maybe quieter than usual, her big brown eyes full of worry. At least that's what I told myself as I stared at the clock on the wall. The nurse, a cheerful guy named Marcus, came in to check my IV. He had a warm smile and a habit of humming while he worked. "You doing okay, Sarah?" he asked, adjusting the drip. I nodded, not trusting my voice. "Family coming soon?" he added, glancing at the empty chair beside my bed. I hesitated, then said, "Yeah, they should be here any minute." He gave me a reassuring pat on the shoulder and left. I kept checking my phone, refreshing it like some kind of addict waiting for a fix. Nothing. I sent a group text to Mom, Dad, Nathan, and Emily. "Surgery's at noon. You guys coming?" I stared at the screen, willing it to light up with a reply. 5 minutes passed, then 10. Finally, my phone buzzed. It was Emily. "So sorry, Sarah. We're at Milo's birthday party. It was already planned. And the kids are so excited. We'll swing by after, okay? Love you." I read the message twice, my brain refusing to process it. Milo was her puppy, a yappy little terrier she'd gotten 6 months ago. A birthday party for a dog? I laughed, a sharp, bitter sound that hurt my chest. They were missing my surgery for a dog's birthday party. I scrolled through Emily's Instagram, unable to stop myself. There they were, Mom, Dad, Nathan, his wife Karen, and their 2 kids, all grinning in Emily's backyard. Balloons shaped like bones floated above a table, covered in dog-themed decorations. Milo wore a tiny party hat, his tongue lolling out as Emily fed him a piece of cake. The caption read, "Happy first birthday, Milo. Best pup ever." My hand shook as I set the phone down. They hadn't even mentioned me. Not a single post or story about their daughter, their sister, lying in a hospital bed, about to go under the knife. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. Only this hurt worse than the accident. Dr. Patel came in at 11:30, her clipboard in hand. "We're prepping the OR now, Sarah. Any family here yet?" I shook my head, my throat tight. "They're busy," I managed. She frowned but didn't push, just squeezed my hand and said, "You're strong. We'll take good care of you." As they wheeled me toward the operating room, the ceiling tiles blurred above me. I kept thinking about that party. Emily had always been the baby of the family, the one who could do no wrong. When she got Milo, everyone acted like she'd given birth to a grandchild. Mom knitted him a sweater. Dad built a custom doghouse. Nathan's kids made him drawings, for God's sake. I loved Milo too, but he was a dog. I was their daughter, their sister, and I was broken, scared, and alone. The anesthesiologist, a bald man with a gentle voice, explained what would happen. He hooked me up to the IV. I barely listened. All I could see was my family laughing, eating cake while I was here, invisible. As the anesthesia kicked in, my last thought wasn't about the surgery or the pain. It was about them, choosing a puppy over me. And in that moment, something shifted. I wasn't just hurt. I was angry. When I woke up, the world was fuzzy. My leg felt like it weighed 100 pounds, and my mouth was dry as sand. Marcus was there, checking my chart. "Surgery went well," he said. "Dr. Patel's pleased. You'll be up and moving in no time." I nodded, still groggy. My phone was back on the table. No new messages. I didn't even bother checking Instagram again. I knew what I'd find. More pictures of Milo. Maybe a group shot of everyone toasting to his big day. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, letting the anger settle into something colder, sharper. They'd made their choice. Now I'd make mine. I wasn't going to beg for their attention or cry about their absence. I was going to show them exactly what it felt like to be ignored. The next few days in the hospital were a blur of pain meds, physical therapy sessions, and Marcus's relentless optimism. He told me stories about his own family, how his mom would bring him soup when he was sick, no matter how old he got. I smiled and nodded, but it only made me feel more alone. My family finally showed up on day 3, all 4 of them crowding into my room with guilty smiles and a cheap bouquet of grocery store flowers. Mom was the first to speak, her voice overly bright. "Sarah, honey, you look so much better. We're so sorry we couldn't make it sooner." The party was chaos, but the kids had a blast. Dad chimed in, saying something about how Milo loved his new toy. Nathan rambled about work stress, and Emily just stood there, clutching a stuffed animal she'd brought to cheer me up. They stayed for 20 minutes, talking mostly about themselves. No one asked about the surgery or how I was feeling. When they left, promising to check in soon, I felt nothing. No tears, no ache, just clarity. I started planning that night. My notebook balanced on my lap as I scribbled ideas. Revenge didn't have to be loud or dramatic. It could be quiet, deliberate, like a slow poison. I knew my family's weaknesses: Mom's obsession with appearances, Dad's need for control, Nathan's fragile ego, Emily's desperate need for attention. I'd hit them where it hurt, but not yet. I had to heal first, physically and mentally. Dr. Patel said recovery would take months, with weekly physical therapy and follow-up appointments. That gave me time to rebuild my strength, to watch them, to learn exactly how to make them feel what I felt. I wasn't going to yell or confront them. That was too easy. I wanted them to see me thrive without them, to realize what they'd lost when they chose a dog's birthday over their own flesh and blood. Physical therapy was brutal. My therapist, a no-nonsense woman named Carla, pushed me to move my leg even when it felt like fire was coursing through my bones. "You're tougher than you think," she'd say, gripping my arm as I hobbled on crutches. I clung to those words, tough. I'd need to be. I started small, cutting back on how often I answered their calls. When Mom texted about Sunday dinner, I said I was too tired. When Nathan invited me to his kids' soccer game, I claimed a therapy session. Emily sent me pictures of Milo, and I left her on red. They didn't notice at first, too wrapped up in their own lives, but I knew they would eventually. I was laying the groundwork, pulling away just enough to make them wonder, to make them miss me, and when they did, I'd be ready with something bigger. By the time I was discharged, I could walk with a cane, though every step was a reminder of the accident. My apartment felt emptier than before, the silence heavy. I sat on my couch staring at the flowers my family had left, now wilting in their vase. I tossed them in the trash. That night I made a list of everything I knew about my family, their routines, their secrets, the little things they cared about too much. Mom's book club, where she bragged about her perfect family. Dad's golf buddies who he'd do anything to impress. Nathan's side hustle, a shady used car business he thought no one knew about. Emily's obsession with her Instagram followers, every post a cry for validation. I wasn't going to destroy them. I wasn't a monster. But I was going to make them see me, really see me for the first time in years. And when they did, they'd regret ever choosing a puppy over me. My apartment became my headquarters, as I healed and plotted. Physical therapy was grueling, but I pushed through, Carla's encouragement ringing in my ears. Each step without my cane felt like a victory, though the pain reminded me of the accident and the empty hospital room. My anger had hardened into focus, and I filled a notebook with plans to make my family feel what I'd felt, invisible. I started by pulling back, ignoring Mom's voicemails about family dinners, replying to Nathan's memes with one-word answers, and leaving Emily's Milo pictures on read. They noticed, but not enough, too caught up in their own worlds. I targeted Mom first, knowing her obsession with her perfect family image. Using a fake Instagram account, I posted vague comments on her book club's community page. The Thompsons aren't as close as they seem. Nothing traceable, just enough to rattle her. A week later, she called, voice sharp, asking if I'd been talking. I played innocent, blaming my therapy schedule. Dad was next. His golf buddies at Pine Ridge Country Club were his pride. So I emailed the manager from a burner account, hinting that George Thompson bragged about cheating. Soon Dad mentioned his friends acting distant. I hid my satisfaction. Nathan's weak spot was his shady used car lot. An anonymous tip to the DMV about questionable practices led to an inspection, leaving him paranoid. Emily, glued to her Instagram fame, got subtle comments from my fake account. Cute dog, but what about your sister? Her post slowed and she called, upset about haters. I listened, offering little. I threw myself into recovery and work. Therapy strengthened me, and I returned to my copy editing job remotely, finding control in words. I reconnected with my friend Jess, who was furious about my family's absence. I didn't share my plans but accepted her invite to an art show, my first outing in months. I felt alive, free from their expectations. Thanksgiving was coming, a big deal for our family. I planned to attend, but not as the old Sarah. I'd wear a sharp new outfit, walk without a limp, and bring Jess, who'd ask the questions they'd dodge. I wanted them to squirm, to see me thrive without them. I kept up the pressure. Another comment on Mom's page, a second email about Dad's golf game, another tip about Nathan's lot. Emily's Instagram got more critical likes from my shadow accounts. They were on edge. Mom fretting about gossip. Dad grumbling. Nathan stressed. Emily quieter online. By November, I walked almost normally, though pain lingered. My family's texts felt hollow, like obligations. I replied sparingly, building a wall. Thanksgiving would be my moment to show them I didn't need them, a step toward making them regret choosing a puppy's party over me. Thanksgiving arrived, crisp and golden, the kind of day Mom would call perfect for family photos. I stood in front of my mirror, smoothing the tailored black blazer and sleek jeans I'd bought for the occasion. My leg ached, but I'd practiced enough to walk without a limp, each step a quiet triumph. Jess was picking me up, her bold energy the perfect contrast to my family's predictable chaos. I hadn't told them I was bringing her, just like I hadn't told them I'd been thriving without their attention. My notebook, now filled with months of plans, sat on my desk, a reminder of every calculated move I'd made. Today wasn't about confrontation. It was about showing them who I'd become, someone they couldn't ignore. Jess pulled up in her beat-up hatchback, her grin infectious as she complimented my outfit. "You look like you're about to run the show," she said. I smiled, feeling the weight of my plans settle into place. We arrived at Mom and Dad's house, the familiar sprawl of their suburban yard, decked out with pumpkins and fairy lights. The smell of turkey and sage hit me as we walked in, along with the chatter of relatives I hadn't seen in months. Mom was in her element, flitting between the kitchen and guests. Her smile practiced, but strained. I caught the flicker of surprise when she saw me. Then Jess, "Sarah, you brought a friend?" she said too brightly, pulling me into a hug that felt more performative than warm. Dad was in the living room, holding court with his golf buddies, his laugh louder than usual. Nathan and Karen were wrangling their kids, who were chasing Milo around with a toy bone. Emily was taking selfies by the dessert table, her phone angled to catch Milo in his Thanksgiving bandana. No one mentioned the accident or my surgery. It was like it never happened. Jess, true to form, didn't let it slide. As we sat down for dinner, she leaned toward Mom, her voice casual but pointed. "So, Linda, how was it when Sarah was in the hospital? Must have been tough, huh?" The table went quiet. Mom's fork froze midair, and Dad coughed into his napkin. Nathan shot Karen a look, and Emily stared at her plate. "Oh, well, we were there when we could," Mom stammered, her face flushing. Jess raised an eyebrow. "Really? I heard you guys were at a dog party or something." I kept my expression neutral, cutting my turkey like it was the most interesting thing in the world. Dad cleared his throat. "It was just a small thing for the kids. Sarah was fine, right, honey?" I met his eyes, calm and steady. "Sure, Dad, I was fine." The lie hung there, and I saw Nathan shift uncomfortably. Emily mumbled something about Milo being family too, but it sounded weak even to her. The rest of dinner was tense, the usual family banter replaced by forced small talk. Jess kept the pressure on, dropping comments about my recovery, how I'd been so strong on my own. Each one landed like a pebble in a still pond, rippling through their guilt. I didn't need to say much. Jess was my voice, saying what I couldn't without breaking my calm facade. After dessert, I excused myself to the bathroom, needing a moment to breathe. In the hallway, I overheard Mom whispering to Dad. Why didn't she tell us it was that serious? Dad muttered back she never said anything. How were we supposed to know? I clenched my fists, then let them go. They still didn't get it, but they were starting to feel it. That was enough for now. Later, as guests mingled, I noticed Emily scrolling through her phone, her face pale. I'd kept up my anonymous comments, and her latest Milo post had drawn more criticism than usual. People questioning her priorities, calling her shallow. She looked shaken, and when she caught my eye, I gave her a small smile. Not cruel, just distant. Nathan pulled me aside, his usual confidence gone. Sarah, you'd tell me if something was up, right? Someone's been messing with my business. It's bad. I tilted my head, feigning concern. That's rough, Nathan. Hope it works out. He nodded, but I saw the doubt in his eyes. Dad was quieter too. His golf buddies leaving early, their goodbyes curt. Mom kept glancing at me, like she was trying to figure out what had changed. I didn't give her anything, just polite smiles and vague answers. Jess and I left before the night got too late. In the car, she laughed, shaking her head. They were sweating. Sarah, did you see their faces? I nodded, a quiet satisfaction settling in my chest. It wasn't over, but it was a start. Over the next few weeks, I kept my distance, letting the seeds I'd planted grow. Mom's book club friends started asking her pointed questions about our family, their whispers fueled by my anonymous posts. Dad's golf group sidelined him, his invitations to games drying up. Nathan's lot faced another inspection, and he started talking about shutting it down. Emily's Instagram following dipped, her confidence shaken by the online criticism. I didn't escalate my attacks. I didn't need to. They were unraveling on their own, each one grappling with their own discomfort. I focused on my life, building something new. I got a promotion at work, my boss praising my focus and new energy. I moved to a better apartment, one with big windows and a view of the city. Jess and I started a book club of our own, inviting friends who actually showed up for me. I kept up with therapy, my legs stronger every week, though the scars would always be there. One night, Emily showed up at my place, unannounced, her eyes red. Sarah, I'm sorry, she said, her voice breaking. I didn't realize how bad it was for you. We should have been there. I let her talk, let her spill her guilt, but I didn't absolve her. Thanks for saying that, I said. My tone even. I've got to get some rest. She left, looking smaller than I'd ever seen her. It wasn't forgiveness, but it was closure, at least for now. Mom called a week later, asking me to come to Sunday dinner. I said I was busy, which was true. I had plans with Jess and our new friends. Dad sent a text, a rare one, asking how I was. I replied doing great, and left it at that. Nathan invited me to his kids' Christmas play, and I said I'd try, knowing I wouldn't. I wasn't cutting them off forever, but I was done chasing their approval. They'd have to work for it now, and I wasn't sure they knew how. My revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about rebuilding myself, showing them I didn't need their validation to shine. I'd been invisible to them once, but never again. As I stood in my new apartment, looking out at the city lights, I felt something I hadn't in months, peace. I'd made them see me, and I was just getting started,